Pitti Bimbo 88.
Pitti Box.
I'm here with Laurian Davis, MBE from the UKFT, and we're wanting to chat about Brexit because it's such a topic at the moment that's really affecting, obviously, UK brands. So, what's the UKFT's role with it currently at the moment with the brands?
Well, our role as far as Brexit is concerned is to give them as much information as we possibly can. And that's an ongoing process because, of course, we haven't really got the ultimate information about what's going to happen. But for the last 2.5 years, essentially, we've been looking at how companies might need to prepare in the event of Brexit, whatever deal might be struck, or a hard Brexit if, please God, that doesn't happen.
So do you give the brands advice then?
We do, yeah, because we're looking at how customs may work, how duties may work, how export paperwork is going to be affected, how their agents overseas might be looking at them, the legal aspect, the intellectual property aspect of the business. I mean, we don't put out endless briefing papers and that sort of thing because people don't take it all in, but certainly we're here to respond to questions and to work with government to get as much info as possible.
That was my next question, was actually do you speak with the government and put forward the problems that the brands or the issues that they're coming up against?
Yes, we have been ever since the process started, because our industry is very special. Everybody thinks their industry is special, but ours certainly is very special, and has special needs and requirements. We have a huge number of very small companies, and they get into export at a much earlier stage than in most other industries, so they won't have a shipping department and a logistics manager to sort these things out for them. And to be quite frank, even if they do, they need to know what they need to be doing. They need to be prepared.
So say if I'm a UK brand then and I'm wanting to find out this information, what do I do?
Pick up the phone or drop us an email. Definitely. We've got Brexit briefing papers which we're revising regularly on a weekly basis, looking at specialist aspects of Brexit and what may happen. I've been quite closely involved in dealing with CITES consignment, endangered species, which affects very few children's wear people. But if you're trading in, vicuña, people don't know that that's actually an endangered species. So if you're very, very top end and you've got vicuña mixed into your cashmere, you need to be thinking about how you're going to do your paperwork. A big issue is going to be if the worst does come to the worst, companies going to overseas trade shows like Pitti Bimbo or that shows in France or Germany have been quite cheerfully just going off in a van, taking the stuff to the show, setting up, coming back with no paperwork at all normally. And if there is a hard Brexit, then we anticipate the only safe way of doing that will be to have an ATA carnet, which would be a very nasty shock.
Yeah, that does. Yeah. So have you forecasted for the different scenarios that could possibly happen?
We have endless spreadsheets, yes, and we don't put them out because they'd be far too
terrify everybody.
And terrifying, and I can only control so many columns in a spreadsheet. You can, but we look at if this, then what. It's.
So, like the UK as well, is quite divided at the moment on the opinion. But is the UKFT membership that they got? Do you find that there's a consensus towards what's going on?
Yes.
And what is that?
Deep horror, really. I mean, it's not going to do our industry any good at all. It brings confusion, consternation, uncertainty, especially at the moment. And that's the very last thing that you need as a small or a large company for dealing with your overseas buyers. What they want is clarity and to have confidence in the brand that they're going to be able to fulfill the order that they're putting through to them.
So we're just thinking hopefully it's a sooner rather than later decision because the uncertainty at the moment is...
a hard Brexit or a no deal would be no good for us, and ultimately we think we have the best deal possible at the moment, which is the status quo. We've seen our exports grow, we've seen exporters grow in confidence dealing with the European Union. They don't even really see it as an export. You happen to be sending something to France or Germany or Italy, and that's really very simple, and it's not going to be like that.
Do you feel that this will affect all levels of brands, between the small brands up to?
Yes, it has to, because customs formalities are no respecters of people being tiny or enormous. If the forms ain't right, it ain't coming in, or it's going to have to be charged a large amount or a small amount of duty. If you haven't got your VAT paperwork right, that's going to be embarrassing at the very least, or expensive in the worst case.
Do you think the government has listened to the UKFT in your advice, or in you putting the brand's visions forward or problems forward?
Yes, I think they have listened, but equally they have their own policy, which is to deliver what they say was the vote in the referendum, and so they haven't changed their mind on that. The civil servants that we deal with in all the various ministries certainly have been doing large amounts of work looking at what the possibilities are going to be and putting out paperwork addressing those various possibilities. So a lot of work has been done. That's not going to make it any better, really.
So what would you advise is the way forward?
For any company, whether they're exporting or thinking of exporting, we advise them to look at their export procedures and their paperwork. Don't just trust your freight forwarder or your courier to do stuff right for you. You need to know what ought to be done. If you're exporting regularly, you need to get an AORI number, which is Exporter Record Number, which will help you in your dealings with customs and VAT. It's all a question of getting your paperwork squeaky clean. It's almost as fun as doing your tax return. You have to.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, but it's something we have to do. You have to make sure that you know which boxes you need to tick, which forms you need to be using. And yes, it's vastly tedious, but it will have to be done, and prepare for it now, and then you won't be scrabbling around on a Friday night ringing us to say, I've got something stuck in customs in somewhere, what do I do?
Well, thank you very much.
Well, I would be too depressing.
I'm just like, oh dear.